Let me cut right to the chase and tell you something that probably applies directly to your wallet right now. You're likely throwing away thousands of dollars on nutritional supplements, and the frustrating part is it's not because the supplements themselves don't work. The real problem is much simpler than that, and once you understand it, everything changes. The mistakes people make with supplementation are incredibly straightforward, whether it's about absorption, understanding proper dosages, or selecting the right forms of nutrients. Today, we're going to dig into exactly what those mistakes are so you can actually start getting real results from what you're spending your money on. Hit that subscribe button right now because this information alone could save you hundreds or even thousands of dollars while simultaneously transforming your health outcomes in ways you probably haven't experienced yet. Here's what most people don't realize when they're standing in a supplement aisle and ordering online. Everything printed on the back of that label, every single number, every dosage recommendation, that's all based on something called the RDA, which stands for Recommended Dietary Allowance. Now, here's where it gets interesting and frankly, where most people get completely misled. The RDA is not the amount of a nutrient you actually need to be healthy and thriving. It's not even close. The RDA represents the absolute bare minimum, the rock bottom survival dose designed solely to prevent major deficiency diseases from developing. It's the amount that keeps you from developing severe disease states. It's not designed to optimize your health. It's certainly not designed to create therapeutic effects where you actually heal from conditions you're dealing with. This is critical to understand because if you have a genuine nutritional deficiency and you're only taking the RDA amount, you will never adequately address that deficiency because the dose is simply too small to create any meaningful change in your body. Let me walk you through some of the most common nutrients people are taking and show you the massive disconnect between what's recommended and what actually works therapeutically. Start with vitamin D3. The official recommendation sits somewhere between 600 and 800 IU daily. That number is frankly ridiculous and completely outdated. It was established based on preventing a childhood bone disease where the skeletal system fails to develop properly. But it has absolutely nothing to do with what your immune system needs, what your brain requires, or what your muscles depend on to function optimally. The reality is that to maintain adequate blood levels of vitamin D, an average person needs somewhere around 10,000 IU every single day, and that's just maintenance. If you're dealing with autoimmune conditions or chronic inflammation, you might actually need 50,000 to even 100,000 IU daily to see real therapeutic benefits. Here's my favorite part of this. Conversation when someone tells me that sounds like too much, I simply ask them what happens when they go outside in the summer for 30 minutes. Your body generates approximately 10,000 IU of vitamin D from that brief sun exposure alone. That argument disappears pretty quickly. Let's look at vitamin C. The official guidance is 90 milligrams daily, and that's literally just the amount needed to prevent scurvy, which is an extreme vitamin C deficiency disease. But physicians who actually work with vitamin C therapeutically are using amounts ranging from 1,000 milligrams all the way up to 10,000 milligrams per day to create actual healing effects in their patients. Vitamin B1 presents an even more dramatic example. The recommended amount is 1.2 milligrams, which is honestly laughable when you understand what this nutrient actually does in your cellular machinery. The functional range is anywhere from 50 to sometimes 600 milligrams per day to create therapeutic effects. B1 is absolutely critical in your mitochondria. Those are your cellular power plants where energy is actually generated. The more refined carbohydrates and processed starches you consume, the more B1 your body demands and depletes. That's precisely why so many people are running critically low on B1. They're not consuming anywhere near what they actually need, especially given their dietary patterns of processed foods. When manufacturers fortify products with B1, they're literally spraying minimal synthetic amounts and calling it enrichment. It's actually just marketing theater. If you're going to supplement with B1, get the natural form, not the synthetic version. This nutrient does remarkable things for your nervous system health, helps with anxiety, and is outstanding for nervous tension that builds up throughout your body. Now let's talk about iodine, because this one fascinates me. The official recommendation is 150 micrograms daily, which is an incredibly tiny amount. But when you look at countries like Japan, where seaweed consumption is deeply embedded in their culture, people are getting therapeutic amounts that range from 500 micrograms all the way up to 3,000 micrograms daily. That's a massive difference. Why does this matter? Iodine plays a crucial role in regulating your estrogen levels throughout your body. It's also remarkably effective for fibrocystic breast tissue, which is that uncomfortable condition where excessive estrogen creates lumpy, painful breast tissue. I've seen this condition completely resolve within weeks when people get their iodine to therapeutic levels. It's actually quite remarkable. Now, let's move to magnesium, and this is important because virtually everyone is deficient in this mineral. It's incredibly difficult to get adequate magnesium from food sources alone, and there are numerous barriers to absorbing what you do consume. The official recommendation is somewhere between 310 and 420 milligrams daily. Again, that's the bare minimum survival doses. And E, not what people actually need to address deficiency or create healing. Here's something they don't tell you. Those original recommendations were based on research using women who weighed around 130 pounds and men weighing about 160 pounds. When you recalculate for someone who weighs significantly more, like myself at around 195 pounds, the adjusted RDA alone goes up to about 600 milligrams. But to actually create therapeutic effects where you're addressing real health problems, you're looking at 800 to 600 milligrams daily. One of the biggest challenges with magnesium supplementation is that most people are taking the wrong form, which I'll explain in detail shortly. Just understand that magnesium is involved in hundreds of different biochemical reactions throughout your entire body. Zinc recommendations sit at between 8 and 11 milligrams, and honestly, that's inadequate for most people. Most individuals actually need somewhere between 25 and 50 milligrams daily. Zinc is involved in testosterone production, your ability to smell and taste foods properly, and maintaining a robust immune system. This mineral is genuinely important. Now, vitamin K2 is interesting because it doesn't even have an official recommendation because it's a relatively newly recognized essential nutrient. Here's what K2 does that's so important. It prevents calcium from accumulating in your arteries and soft tissues where it causes damage. The specific form I recommend is MK7, and you should target between 200 and 400 micrograms daily for basic needs. However, if you're trying to create a real therapeutic effect, let's say you're dealing with bone density loss, research shows you actually need around 45 milligrams daily. There's compelling research on Japanese women with osteoporosis showing significant positive effects at that dosage level. K2 actually takes calcium that's built up in your arteries and joints and redirects it into your bones and teeth where it belongs. B12 recommendations are E2.4 micrograms, which is frankly way too low. You actually need between 1,000 and 2,000 micrograms to see meaningful effects. I'll cover the correct form shortly because you definitely don't want the synthetic version. That tiny recommended amount won't do anything except prevent a severe deficiency state. Omega-3 fatty acids, whether from fish oils or other sources, are recommended at 1.1 to 1.6 grams daily. But here's the reality: most people are consuming massive amounts of inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids from seed oils throughout their diet. To actually counteract that inflammatory load and create balance, you need to get up to 3 to 5 grams daily. Very few people actually do this, but if you're dealing with inflammation like arthritis or autoimmune conditions, these are the ranges where you actually see therapeutic results. People will take smaller amounts, notice no improvement, and then stop thinking supplements don't work. The truth is they didn't take enough to produce any E. And effect. Finally, selenium is another critically important trace mineral that most people need more of than the official 55 micrograms recommendation. You actually need 200 to 400 micrograms to create meaningful effects on your immune system and liver function. Selenium helps build glutathione, which is one of your body's most powerful antioxidants. It's also essential for converting your thyroid hormone into the form your body actually uses. This is genuinely important for anyone anyone dealing with thyroid issues. So the pattern here is clear stop, just focusing on the RDA numbers. Look at therapeutic dosages instead, because that's why most people take supplements in the first place, to actually address health problems they're experiencing. Before we go further, there's something critically important I need to mention that doesn't fit neatly into the RDA discussion, but it absolutely determines whether your supplements will work at all. You can be wasting massive amounts of money on supplement. And if your foundational diet is poor, here's why your diet itself constantly depletes your nutritional stores. When you're eating processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and inflammatory ingredients, your body's nutrient demands skyrocket. The requirements for utilizing and processing nutrition increase dramatically with certain nutrients. People come to me exhausted, unable to sleep properly, so they start taking supplements expecting them to work like magic. But they're simultaneously eating foods that undermine their entire system. You cannot supplement your way out of a bad diet. A poor diet combined with blood sugar instability will completely override and negate the benefits you're trying to create through supplementation. This is why addressing your dietary foundation first is absolutely essential. Now let's talk about something that most people completely miss, and this is huge factors. What exactly is a cofactor? Well, vitamins and minerals exist in your body to facilitate channel and chemical reactions, what we call biochemical reactions. Every function your body performs, turning food into hair and skin, giving you the ability to move, allowing you to sleep without muscle cramps. All of these require precise chemistry and the right cofactors present. Here's the critical part that most supplement companies don't tell you in nature. Vitamins never work independently. They always function as part of a complex system with other nutrients working together. Let me give you specific examples so this becomes crystal clear. For vitamin D to actually work in your body, you need several other things present simultaneously. You need vitamin K2 because vitamin D increases calcium in your bloodstream, but K2 takes that calcium and directs it away from your arteries and soft tissues. Without K2, that calcium just builds up where you don't want it. You also need adequate magnesium because vitamin D3 literally cannot function if you're deficient in magnesium. Additionally, you need Zi, NC-B6, boron, and even vitamin A for your vitamin D system to operate properly. This means if you're buying a single vitamin D supplement without these cofactors, you should also be consuming foods high in these nutrients or taking additional supplements to support it. Zinc requires copper to work properly. B12 works in partnership with folate, and a folate deficiency can actually mimic B12 deficiency symptoms even when you're taking B12. B1 requires magnesium to function. You'll notice throughout this that magnesium keeps showing up. It's involved in supporting so many different functions throughout your body. Even vitamin K2 won't work without adequate magnesium. So if you're taking K2 to address arterial calcification or joint problems and you're not seeing any improvement, the problem might be that you're deficient in magnesium, which is preventing K2 from doing its job. There's also coenzyme Q10, which doesn't have an official RDA, which is why I didn't include it earlier. But CoQ10 is absolutely critical because it's a key nutrient in your mitochondria, your cellular energy factories. When you're deficient in CoQ10, you experience fatigue, especially in your muscles, because they can't produce adequate energy to function. Here's something important: statin drugs block cholesterol production in your body, but they also simultaneously block CoQ10 production. This creates numerous muscle-related side effects, which is exactly why anyone taking statins needs to be supplementing with CoQ10. CoQ10 functions as an antioxidant and works synergistically with vitamin E and selenium, both of which are also antioxidants that protect your system. Vitamin A requires zinc to function properly. When someone tells me they can't see well while driving at night, especially with glaring lights, we typically assume vitamin A deficiency, but often it's actually zinc deficiency preventing vitamin A from working. Both nutrients are essential. Vitamin E requires selenium to work optimal. And lie. Here's an interesting detail about vitamin I. There are actually two different groups. You have tocopherols and you have tocotrienols. I recommend tocotrienols for many different health conditions because they're significantly more potent and effective. Brazil nuts happen to be your best food source for selenium, so just a couple daily gives you a solid amount. The point here is clear. never take isolated nutrients without considering their cofactor requirements. This is why cheap, single-ingredient supplements often don't deliver results. Your body operates as an integrated system where everything works together. Now, let's talk about timing, because when you take your supplements matters just as much as what you're taking. B vitamins belong in your morning routine because they tend to increase energy production. If you take them right before bed, they can keep you awake all night, disrupting your sleep. Iodine also stimulates your thyroid function, so morning administration makes sense. And C. Even if you're getting iodine from sea vegetables, consume them in the morning. Potassium presents an interesting challenge because some people tolerate it at night, but most cannot because it causes excess fluid accumulating in your body to be released. If you take potassium at night and you're retaining fluid, you'll find yourself getting up multiple times to urinate. Potassium also provides energy, so taking it earlier in the day makes more sense for most people. When you eat lunch is exactly when you should consume fat-soluble nutrients like vitamin D, K2, possibly vitamin E, omega-3 fatty acids, and coenzyme Q10. These all require dietary fat for proper absorption into your system. Fat-soluble vitamins A, K, D, and E all demand fat to cross your intestinal barrier. Here's a practical example. When you eat salad, adding oil allows you to extract and absorb the phytonutrients from the vegetables. Phytonutrients are also fat-soluble, which is exactly why that oil makes such a mean and infall difference. After dinner is when I personally take magnesium glycinate to help my body transition into relaxation mode. I consume significantly more than the official recommendations throughout my entire day, but evening administration particularly supports winding down because magnesium increases GABA, your brain's primary calming neurotransmitter. It simultaneously lowers cortisol, your stress hormone. Magnesium won't make you drowsy, but it absolutely creates the conditions where your body can relax more effectively and sleep better. Now, here's the fourth major mistake people make. They don't understand the critical difference between synthetic and natural supplement forms. While certain synthetics I actually do recommend exist, the majority create more problems than they solve. Some synthetics work fine. Benfotiamine is a fat-soluble form of B1 that works remarkably well for peripheral neuropathy, which is pain in your feet. Taurocolic acid is a synthetic bile salt that Mimi and CS bear bile without requiring harm to bears as historical remedies did. This synthetic version works really effectively at thinning bile and allowing proper flow from your liver through your gallbladder, addressing the bile sludge that creates right shoulder pain for so many people. However, most synthetic vitamins contain fillers like maltodextrin, which is actually worse for your system than sugar. This is why supplement quality matters so much. Here's a simple test you can do. Open a capsule, mix it with water, add a drop of iodine. If it turns dark purple, you've got starch, probably maltodextrin. If it stays yellow, it's relatively clean. Always seek whole food-based complexes. About 80% of the raw materials used to create synthetic vitamins originate in China, including vitamin C, B complex, and vitamin D3. These chemical manufacturing companies produce the vast majority of synthetic vitamins distributed globally. Think about how many people take popular one a day, and mulations believing they're receiving nutritional support when they're essentially consuming chemically derived imitations of actual nutrients. The difference between natural and synthetic is substantial and meaningful. Let's get specific about forms because this is where people get confused. Magnesium oxide, which you see everywhere, because it's cheap, offers only 3 to 4% absorption and creates laxative effects. When you try to increase the dose to improve absorption, you get diarrhea. Magnesium glycinate, which is my preferred form, absorbs significantly better and is what I personally use. Calcium carbonate is literally limestone. I have no idea why it's in supplements except that it's inexpensive. If you're supplementing calcium at all, choose lactate or consume fermented dairy instead. B12 synthetic version, cyanocobalamin, which I don't recommend, is completely different from methylcobalamin, the natural version I suggest. With folate, never take synthetic folic acid. Use folate, preferably the methylated form, because many people have genetic issues where synthetic versions create more problems. Vitamin B6 comes as pyridoxine HCl, which is the inactive form and must be converted in your body. If you have genetic conversion issues, you won't benefit from it. Use P5P instead, which is the active form your body can immediately use. Iron is particularly important to address because most supplements use ferrous sulfate, which is cheap, difficult to absorb, and accumulates in your body over time. I don't recommend iron supplements at all. Get your iron from liver supplements or consume actual liver or red meat. Iron accumulation creates serious issues, especially in men. It feeds harmful microbes, creates arthritis, and irritates your liver. Now that you understand these major mistakes with supplements, you can make smarter choices that actually deliver results. Your supplementation strategy needs to account for dosage, cofactors, timing, and form. And get these things right, and you'll finally experience the health benefits you've been paying for.